long before he became the most feared general of the Mongol Empire. Subutai was born into a world defined by hardship, survival, and relentless mobility. The Mongolian steppe of the late 12th century was a vast, wind-swept expanse where clans survived through mastery of the horse, the bow, and an iron will shaped by the land itself. Subutai was not born into nobility. He belonged to the Uryankai, a forest-dwelling tribe known more for hunting than warfare. Unlike the aristocratic families that produced many Mongol commanders, Subutai's rise came purely from talent and loyalty, traits that would eventually make him one of history's greatest strategic minds. His early life remains lightly documented, but what is known reveals a youth defined by discipline and resilience. Subutai and his brothers grew up tracking deer and wolves through dense forest, learning patience, stealth, and coordination. These skills, unremarkable in childhood, would become lethal advantages on the battlefield. Subutai's father served as a doorkeeper in the camp of Yasuge, father of Temujin, the future Genghis Khan. This small connection placed Subutai near the orbit of greatness, but nothing guaranteed his future. In the rigid hierarchy of steppe society, sons of doorkeepers did not become generals. Yet Subutai was no ordinary youth. When he entered the service of Temujin around the age of 17, he did so with fierce loyalty and an uncommon ability to understand terrain, movement, and timing. Temujin immediately recognized the young Uryankai's intelligence and adaptability. Subutai learned the Mongol art of warfare, rapid cavalry maneuvers, coordinated feints, psychological warfare, then refined them with his own innovations. As Temujin united the Mongol tribes into a single rising power, Subutai became one of his most trusted warriors. His rise was meteoric. From a low-born hunter, he rose to become a Batur, a title given only to the bravest warriors. But Subutai was more than brave. He was methodical, analytical, and forward-thinking in ways even the Mongol elite had rarely seen. He distinguished himself early in Temujin's wars of unification, especially in battles against rival tribes like the Merkits, Tatars, and Naimans. Subutai excelled in reconnaissance, disappearing for days behind enemy lines, returning with precise intelligence on enemy numbers, weaknesses, and terrain advantages. Genghis Khan valued such insight immensely. Where other generals saw only fields and hills, Subutai saw possibilities, angles, and timing. By the time Temujin became Genghis Khan in 1206, ruler of all Mongols, Subutai had already proven himself indispensable. He was appointed one of the Khan's 4 dogs of war, elite generals entrusted with expanding the empire's borders. Critics would later claim that Subutai was too cunning, too creative, and too dangerous. To Khan, these were virtues. The Khan once said Subutai had a mind like a steel trap. Unlike other legendary commanders who ruled from atop a horse and never touched the ground, Subutai marched on foot, carrying a wooden cart filled with strategic maps and tools for planning campaigns. While other generals relied on instinct, Subutai relied on analysis. He pioneered coordinated multi-army attacks over distances once thought impossible, and he mastered the art of deception, making entire kingdoms react not to his army, but to the illusion of it. This was the beginning of a career that would reshape Eurasia. Subutai, the son of a humble doorkeeper, was becoming the sharpest weapon in the Mongol arsenal. The world did not yet know it, but a general unlike any before or after had just stepped onto history's stage. As the Mongol Empire expanded beyond the steppes, Subutai began to demonstrate the full extent of his military genius. His early campaigns under Genghis Khan were not merely tests of loyalty. They were the crucible that honed him into one of the greatest strategists of all time. Unlike many Mongol generals who relied on raw aggression and superior horsemanship, Subutai viewed warfare as a vast, interconnected puzzle. Every terrain feature, every enemy weakness, every delay or advance was a piece he could manipulate. His first major display of brilliance came in the war against the Jin dynasty in northern China. The Mongols faced fortified cities, obstacles that horse archers had never conquered at scale. While many Mongol commanders hesitated, Subutai adapted instantly. He studied Chinese engineering, siege weapons, and supply systems. Soon he was ordering the construction of catapults, battering rams, siege towers, and even using captured engineers to develop psychological tactics, like launching flaming projectiles over city walls at night to terrify defenders. Subutai helped Genghis Khan break through cities previously thought impenetrable. But it was during the Khwarezmian campaign, 1219 to 2021, that Subutai's name became synonymous with terror. After the Shah of Khwarezm betrayed Mongol envoys, Genghis Khan unleashed his armies across Central Asia. Subutai and Jeb Noyan, another legendary general, were entrusted with one of the most daring missions in military history: pursue the fleeing Shah across thousands of miles, without support, without clear supply lines, and through enemy territory. For 2 straight years, Subutai and Jeb chased the Shah across Persia, the Caucasus, and the Caspian coast, smashing armies many times their size along the way. Their campaign was a masterpiece of mobility, deception, and relentless pressure. Subutai used false retreats, night attacks, and feigned weakness to lure opponents into devastating ambushes. He learned local terrain faster than the locals themselves. The Shah died on the run, exhausted and isolated, hunted to the end by Subutai's persistence. But Subutai was not done. After the Shah fell, he did the unthinkable. He turned west. With only a few thousand men, Subutai began probing the borders of Georgia and Kievan Rus, defeating their armies in a series of sudden, brutal attacks. In Georgia, Mongol forces smashed elite heavy cavalry, a feat few armies had accomplished at scale. In Slavic territories, Subutai conducted lightning-fast reconnaissance, mapping rivers, cities, and forests, studying how the ground froze in winter and turned to mud in spring. These early incursions became the blueprint for an invasion that would shake Europe to its core a decade later. Genghis Khan took notice. Subutai's ability to wage war over impossible distances, to gather intelligence with near supernatural accuracy, and to adapt instantly to foreign tactics made him invaluable. While other generals excelled in direct combat, Subutai excelled in campaigns. He could coordinate multiple armies across hundreds of miles with perfect timing, something no general in Europe or Asia could match. By the early 1220s, Subutai had proven he was not just a great commander, he was a strategic revolutionary. Genghis Khan rewarded him with expanded authority and greater responsibility, trusting him with operations that would determine the empire's future. When Genghis died in 1227, many wondered who would lead the Mongol war machine into its next era. Subutai, loyal to the new Great Khan Ogedai, was ready. His greatest campaigns were yet to come, campaigns that would devastate Eastern Europe, annihilate entire armies, and make kings tremble at the whisper of the Mongol advance. Subutai was no longer just a commander, he was becoming the architect of Mongol world domination.
By the late 1230s, Subutai had become the undisputed architect of Mongol expansion. Under Genghis Khan, he prepared for the most ambitious military campaign the world had ever seen, a coordinated invasion of Eastern and Central Europe. Unlike other Mongol commanders who relied on overwhelming numbers or brute force, Subutai approached Europe with cold calculation. His strategy was not to win a battle, but to break civilizations. The campaign began with reconnaissance. Subutai spent years sending small cavalry detachments deep into Slavic lands, assessing terrain, river crossings, seasonal weather patterns, and the political tensions between princes and kingdoms. He learned which cities were rivals, which nations mistrusted one another, and which rulers could be manipulated. Europe, unlike unified China or Persia, was fractured, and Subutai understood how to exploit this weakness. The invasion officially started in 1237. Subutai, alongside Batu Khan, launched a sweeping offensive across the Rus principalities. The Mongols moved with terrifying precision. At the Battle of the Sit River, they annihilated the forces of Grand Prince Yuri II of Vladimir. Cities like Ryazan, Kolomna, and Moscow fell in rapid succession. The techniques Subutai used were astonishing in their efficiency: encirclement, psychological warfare, relentless pursuit, and a near-perfect understanding of timing. One of Subutai's most devastating techniques was the tulukhma, or multi-directional attack. While European armies expected frontal engagement, Subutai divided his forces into small, fast-moving contingents. They approached a target from multiple angles, cutting escape routes, isolating defenders, and forcing battles into open fields where Mongol archery dominated. In 1240, Subutai captured Kiev, the mother of Rus cities, after a ferocious siege. Contemporary chronicles describe the devastation as nearly total. Those who survived wrote of flames, collapsing walls, and a sky filled with arrows. Europe had never experienced warfare on this scale. But Subutai's ultimate objective lay westward. After consolidating their hold on Rus, Subutai planned a coordinated double strike into Europe. In a feat of strategic brilliance, he divided his army into 3 separate forces, each marching hundreds of miles apart through treacherous winter terrain. Their targets were Poland, Hungary, and the scattered resistance in between. The plan was simple: lure European armies into marching toward one Mongol force, while a second Mongol force struck from an unexpected direction. In early 1241, Subutai sprang the trap. His forces crushed the Polish-German coalition at the Battle of Legnica, beheading Duke Henry the Pious and sending shockwaves throughout the continent. Days later, Subutai executed his masterpiece, the Battle of Mohi in Hungary. At Mohi, Subutai demonstrated unmatched tactical genius. He trapped the Hungarian army between the Sajo River and a surrounding ring of Mongol forces. When the Hungarians attempted to cross a bridge, Subutai deployed siege engines and incendiaries, a shocking sight for European soldiers who had never seen such weaponry used in open battle. As panic spread, a second Mongol force struck the Hungarian flank, collapsing their formation. The battle turned into a rout. Tens of thousands were killed. Subutai's invasion of Europe was so precise, so overwhelming, and so advanced in its operational planning that modern military historians consider it one of the greatest campaigns ever executed. In just a few years, Subutai crushed the military power of Eastern Europe and opened a path to Vienna. Europe was defenseless. No kingdom could stop him. Had he continued west, the fate of the continent might have changed forever. But then came a moment no strategist could plan for. one event that saved Europe from total destruction.
By 1241, Subutai stood on the brink of completing what no general before or since had achieved, the conquest of all Europe. After the crushing Mongol victories at Legnica and Mohi, there was no force left in the region capable of resisting him. The road to Vienna and beyond it, Germany, France, and Italy lay open. Subutai's armies were already preparing to push westward in a massive sweep that could have shattered medieval Europe. But destiny intervened. In late 1241, news arrived from Mongolia that Great Khan Ogedai, the supreme ruler of the Mongol Empire, had died. According to Mongol law, all princes and key commanders had to return home to participate in the Kurultai, the election of a new Great Khan. For Batu Khan, the nominal leader of the European campaign, this was not optional. And without the royal backing, no Mongol invasion of Western Europe could legally continue. Subutai's armies were forced to halt. It was a moment of enormous strategic frustration. He had developed long-term plans for taking Vienna, isolating the Holy Roman Empire, and using the Alps' passes to strike into Lombardy and northern Italy. According to some sources, Subutai had even scouted routes that could have brought Mongol cavalry into the heart of France. Medieval chroniclers later speculated that Europe had been saved by the death of a distant emperor. Reluctantly, Subutai withdrew his forces eastward, but he did not abandon the lands he had conquered. Before leaving, he reorganized the conquered territories of Rus into tributary states, ensuring Mongol influence would last for centuries. The Mongol yoke would shape Russian history, politics, and culture long after Subutai himself was gone. When Subutai returned to Mongolia, he was nearly 70 years old, an age few generals in world history ever fought beyond. Yet his career was not over. Under the new Great Khan Yuk, Subutai began planning another large-scale campaign, this time against the Song dynasty of China, one of the wealthiest and most technologically advanced states of the medieval world. Even in old age, Subutai demonstrated unmatched strategic brilliance. He coordinated Mongol forces across vast distances, exploiting river networks, supply routes, and communication systems. His armies advanced into southern China with precision, reminiscent of his earlier campaigns in Europe and Central Asia. The discipline he instilled in the Mongol forces allowed them to break through fortified cities using a combination of mobility and siege warfare, blending techniques learned from Persia, China, and the steppe. But despite his continued service, Subutai's relationship with Mongol aristocracy was complex. He was deeply respected, yet not fully embraced by noble families due to his low-born origins. His victories served the empire, but political favor often went to princes and aristocratic generals. Subutai, a man who had broken kingdoms and rewritten military history, remained humble and loyal despite these slights. Near the end of his life, Subutai retired to Mongolia, reportedly near the Toul River, where he spent his remaining years advising younger commanders. He had fought in more than 60 major battles and helped conquer an empire stretching from Korea to Hungary. No general in history commanded armies across such vast distances with such consistent success. Subutai died around 1248, possibly in his early 70s. His passing went largely unrecorded in contemporary Mongol chronicles, an omission that reveals how little the steppe elites valued written legacy. But history did not forget him. Modern military historians, from Sir Basil Littlehart to U.S. Army strategists, consider Subutai one of the greatest generals who ever lived. His campaign planning, coordinated multi-front invasions, psychological warfare, and strategic mobility remain case studies in universities and war colleges. Napoleon itself is believed to have said, "I am ashamed to compare myself to Subutai." Europe survived him, but never forgot him. Subutai remains the ghost general of history,
the man who almost conquered the world.
Subutai's death marked the end of an era in Mongol military history, yet his influence only grew with time. Unlike many medieval commanders whose reputations faded with the collapse of their kingdoms, Subutai's strategies, campaigns, and innovations became embedded in the very foundation of how empires wage war. Though he left no personal memoirs, his actions alone formed a legacy so profound that centuries later, generals and scholars would study his methods as if they were sacred texts of warfare. One of Subutai's greatest contributions was the development of truly synchronized multi-front warfare. Long before telegraphs, radios, or satellite communications, he coordinated armies across hundreds, sometimes thousands of miles with near-perfect precision. Modern commanders marvel at how Subutai anticipated the movement of enemy states, understood the speed of cavalry over varying terrains, and orchestrated simultaneous victories. His European campaign of 1241 is still considered a masterclass in operational planning. Subutai also perfected the use of psychological warfare. He knew that defeating an enemy's spirit was as important as defeating their army. His feigned retreats, sudden winter offensives, and encirclement maneuvers created a sense of inevitability around Mongol victory. For kingdoms like Hungary and Poland, the fear of Subutai's approach alone caused political collapse and military missteps. His reputation traveled faster than his armies. Equally important was Subutai's ability to integrate diverse cultures into a unified fighting machine. Under his command, Mongol forces employed Chinese engineers, Persian siege specialists, Turkic cavalry, and more. He believed that any useful tactic, no matter its origin, should be adopted. This willingness to learn from conquered peoples gave the Mongol army unmatched adaptability in both open fields and fortified sieges. His strategic genius continues to shape modern military thought. Analysts compare his operational depth to that of Napoleon and his mobility to that of German blitzkrieg commanders. The U.S. Army War College has described Subutai as a pioneer of strategic maneuver, emphasizing that his campaigns foreshadowed many principles of 20th century warfare. Subutai used speed, coordination, and intelligence to overwhelm enemies, tactics considered revolutionary for his time. Yet perhaps the most striking element of Subutai's legacy is how little he sought personal glory. Unlike Alexander, Caesar, or Napoleon, Subutai did not carve monuments or write histories celebrating himself. He remained humble, a servant of the Khans, loyal to the end. He asked for no kingdom, no royal marriage, no great title. His only wish was to continue serving on campaign, even into old age. Ironically, his humility contributed to his relative obscurity in mainstream history. For centuries, his achievements were overshadowed by those of Genghis Khan and later Mongol rulers. It was only when modern historians began analyzing battlefield reports, campaign routes, and military archives that Subutai's brilliance became undeniable. Today, he's widely recognized as one of the most dangerous military minds in history. His victories reshaped Eurasia. His strategies inform modern doctrine, and his campaigns remain unmatched in scope and precision. Subutai changed the fate of civilizations, not through kingship or imperial ambition, but through the cold, disciplined art of war. It is no exaggeration to say that Europe owes its survival to the death of Genghis Khan. Had Subutai continued his march west, medieval history, perhaps even the boundaries of Europe itself, might look entirely different.
Subutai was more than a general. He was a phenomenon. The son of a humble doorkeeper who commanded empires, shattered kingdoms, and earned the respect and fear of the world. A silent architect of conquest whose shadow still falls across military history. In the end, Subutai did not need his name carved in stone. The continents he carved with fire and steel were his monument.